Hello everybody, welcome back here. This time we're taking another little intermission from our Steve Vai album review series and doing another kind of ranking the appearances kind of thing. This video will go under that kind of banner, even though it's not exactly ranking the looks of every one person. Because as you know, with the Nightmare on Elm Street series, I did, I ranked all the movies and then ranked all the looks of Freddy. He's had a bunch of different kind of cool looks and different makeup appearances over the years. But with the Hellraiser series that I reviewed ranked, a little bit ago, it would be a little redundant. You kind of hear the same thing over and over again if I was talking about ranking the appearances of Pinhead, because there are some that stand out, in particular with like the different actors and stuff, like later on down the line. But for the most part, Pinhead's appearance is pretty much consistent, even though with some minor differences and stuff in the makeup. So instead of that, I talked about last time, or whenever I talked about in that video, we will instead be ranking all the Cenobites. That's right, every single one. And what I've got here, I counted up. I went on the Hellraiser wiki and made sure and ran through all the movies, making sure to gather them all up, so I've got a total of 24 here. I got them wrote down here. And one thing is, what I found out, actually, is that in Judgment, and this kind of made me sad, because I don't get to rank these guys in there, the Auditor, and, the Butcher, and some of those guys in the newest Hellraiser, Judgment, were not considered Cenobites. So I thought that was kind of lame, because I really liked a lot of those characters. So they weren't technically Cenobites, and neither is, the Engineer, big crazy creature from, the first two movies, which I thought he was too. But, so that kind of sucks, but hey, we got 24 we're dealing with here, so I'll just be ranking these kind of based on, how much I like them, how cool they look, and maybe in some of these cases, kind of how they played into the story and everything. So, with that being said, we're just going to hop right into this here with 24. Number 24, the worst Cenobite, in my opinion, is Pseudo-Pinhead from Revelations. I mean, if Pinhead didn't already look bad enough in that movie, they go and make another one. If you're going to make another Cenobite, or in the movie, don't just make a copy of Pinhead, who already just looks terrible. And this looks even worse. I hate that movie. I really do. And if you saw my rankings, you'd know how much I despise that movie. But maybe a cool part of it involving Pseudo Pinhead is just, kind of nailing the pieces on him or whatever. But, it's just, I don't know. It's just not good. He looks horrible, and it's apparently the brother of like the main the main girl in the movie, and like the son of like the parents, and kind of the buddy of the really crazy evil guy who ends up taking this guy's body, and this guy ends up becoming Pseudo Pinhead, and it's just stupid looking, and he just kind of stands around and stares, and I just cannot with that movie, and I cannot with Pseudo Pinhead. And if I was ranking up in Pinheads, Pinhead from that movie would be right down here with them, because it is just awful. Awful, awful stuff. Hate Pseudo Pinhead. I like the Cenobites that stand out, and are their own kind of character. And we will see later on in these rankings where they kind of reuse some ideas with some of these, and that kind of drops some points for me with some of these other ones. But big time points for Pseudo Pinhead. Big time negative points for Pseudo Pinhead from me. So then we go to number 23, and I'm going with Dreamer. And I pulled these names from some of these I didn't even know like their official names, but I got these from the Hellraiser wiki. But 23, Dreamer from Hell on Earth, and she's the girl who is kind of like staying with our main protagonist, and was the ex-girlfriend of like one of the main villain guys who owns the bar and the club, and she ends up, and she's constantly kind of smoking cigarettes all throughout her time on screen. But then when she becomes a Cenobite, due to Pinhead, joining the party and coming back getting freed from that statue, she has like this, like a trach, and is talking through it, and there's smoke coming out of here. And this was the dumbest thing, is whenever she, she looks kind of creepy, I guess, but then, like, all of a sudden, when all these Cenobites are appearing that were other characters, like some of the other ones we'll talk about in a minute, the scariest thing she's got to do is just get her cigarette, puffs on it, and then tries to burn our main character in this. So it's like, really, that's the scariest thing you got going, is that you're just going to try to reach over and burn somebody with a cigarette. I mean, come on. That is just, obviously I have my problems with some of these, in fact, some of these weird, dumb Cenobites in Hell on Earth, Hellraiser 3 are some of the biggest problems with the movie as a whole, are some of these just way too over-the-top Cenobites. Which that leads us right into number 22 with Camera Head from Hell on Earth. And my God, this is like the camera guy for the main girl, who's like a news reporter. And he becomes this walking, just a Cenobite with this big giant camera thing on his head. He can shoot lasers out. He's out here spitting out one-liners like he's Freddy Krueger or something. And it's not working. The only reason I put him above the Dreamer girls, because at least, like, he's got a laser he can shoot out at you. But, he looks stupid. He doesn't need to be saying these one-liners, which, you laugh at him, like, if you just... I do like Hellraiser 3. It's a fun movie for what it is. And while these kind of shittier Cenobites, kind of weird, really crazy ones, over-the-top ones, are kind of a problem with the movie, they're also kind of make it fun, And so every time Camera Head's on the screen, it makes me laugh at him, it's just not really... He's not really scary, but at least he's got that laser, and the way he walks like a freaking robot, it's just strange. Very strange stuff. So then we go on to number 21, with Female Cenobite 2. Really, really cool original name. But this is from Revelations, and, surprisingly, we got a Revelation Cenobite ranking above a couple here, and this is just because, and she doesn't really do much. She's just the female Cenobite number 2, and instead of kind of being like the female Cenobite we get in the first 2 movies, this is just like kind of the same thing, except she's got a Chatterer for a head. Like she's like looks just like the Chatterer Cenobite, except on a female body. And we see the Chatterer thing a little bit too much throughout this. They kind of overuse that, and this is like, at this point, especially as, like, if you're watching through the movies, you start to realize, like, my God, okay, how many times are you going to reuse the Chatterer thing? Let's make some different Cenobites. And, she didn't really do anything, but, like, she looked kind of cool. The Chatterer is always a safe design, to look really cool. And so Revelations, you actually got a point there for having, not really a good Cenobite, because it's not really original at all. But, like, just kind of, okay, there she is, female Cenobite number 2, sitting back there looking like the Chatterer. So, at least they got that in there. Not a good Cenobite, but, just kind of, it is what it is. Then we go on to number 20, another one from Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. Talk about Piston Head. And the reason he gets kind of bumped above some Dreamer and Camera Head from that movie, it's because he does look kind of creepy. He got his, like, tongue sticking out and the spikes through his head. But it's when he talks and, like, just the way he acts is what puts him down this look. Because he's just, it's rough. He's over here. It turns out this is the character that is, like, I think his name's JP, the guy who owns the club, and it's just a really screwed up guy, kind of a playboy kind of guy. He turns into this Cenobite Piston Head, which I totally forgot about, like, that was him, because he really doesn't look anything like him. And, like, the whole, with Camera Head and Dreamer, there's, like, a main kind of character attribute that kind of from their, human character that kind of carries along into the Cenobite form. But with Piston Head, it's like, okay, well, he's got a piston, I guess, and it kind of just going in and out of his head, and like I guess and he kind of makes some weird like corny one-liners about like, you know, him having sex or something, and like the Pistons being related, but it's dumb. I didn't like that aspect of him, but like he at least looks pretty freaky, and like those spikes in his head kind of moving into that looks kind of cool, but just the way he kind of acts, you know, and just the dumb one-liners again really put him down further. If he just maybe would have kept his mouth shut, didn't say anything, maybe even would have jumped up a couple spots here. But because I totally forgot, like whenever I was rewatching through these movies again, that was actually that character. So Piston Head is at number 20. Now we go to number 19, the Siamese twins from Bloodline. And this is like these two security guards who get their heads like, and they're twins, and they actually get like intertwined. At least I think they're twins before becoming the Cenobite. Or they're either twins or brothers, or they just look a lot alike. I remember that much. But either way, they get their heads all twisted together in kind of this weird like formation. You know, it's exactly what it sounds like, a Siamese twin, like, but like a conjoined kind of curve in the head, which is kind of cool. They look kind of dumb, but like I like how they end up adding someone to like their, you know, to make it a three-headed kind of in the future segment of Bloodline, when they twist somebody else up in there with like that kind of, you know, spot in the middle of their heads that just kind of like links them together. They tie that up around. So that was kind of a cool thing that they did. And I don't hate the Siamese twins. I just think the design looks a little weird, but I think it was kind of a cool concept how they were like adding people to, you know, their form or whatever. So Siamese twins come in right there at number 19. Number 18 is Surgeon from Hellseeker. And he's got kind of a cool design. He doesn't really do a lot, kind of a background, kind of Cenobite. That's how a lot of them are, kind of in these later movies that were like straight to DVD, VHS. But, you know, they call him Surgeon. And I mean, I don't know if you guys have played the game Dead by Daylight, but one of their original characters is called like the Doctor or Surgeon. And he looks almost just like this Cenobite here, Surgeon. So I'm wondering if they were inspired by that. Like he's got like, you know, the whole thing with like his mouth being held open and like his eyelids kind of being held open, and, you know, just some spikes around him. So he looks really cool, but that's like immediately what I think of whenever I see Surgeon from Hellseeker kind of in the background, looping around, or, you know, kind of around Pinhead. I see the character from Dead by Daylight, who's, again, I can't remember if it's I think it's just the Doctor is what they call him. But he's got a really cool design nonetheless. Doesn't really do a lot, but again, he's one of those background ones that just looks really cool back there. Does what he needs to do, I guess. So we get number 18, Surgeon. Then we get number 17, Stitch. And this one here, and this is from Hellseeker and Deader. So we got, this was just one in Hellseeker. It was just one Cenobite. And it's kind of got a creepy kind of look with almost like a face with no features, with just kind of like Stitch kind of going down the middle with mouth and like some eyes, and just kind of a really creepy look. And then in Deader, we get two of them that are just kind of hanging around each other. They look pretty freaky, you know. I think maybe if they would have given the Siamese twin kind of thing with this design that looks a little bit freakier, maybe, you know, the Siamese twins maybe would have ranked up a little bit higher to be. The Siamese twins were more prominent than these two Stitch twins here, but I do like the design of the Stitch twins better, although they're not like too stand out, like super significant designs or whatever, but they are creepy when you see them kind of lurking in the shadows, and I particularly like it whenever there's the two of them in Deader, when they're kind of hanging out in there. So number 17 is Stitch, or the Stitch twins. So then number 16 we got Bound from Hellseeker, and this is a pretty freaky one. It almost looks like from the Soul Calibur games. I don't know if you guys play them, but that character Voldo, who's almost like, you know, he's got like all these like bandages. He's like bound up like around his mouth and eyes, all over his face, and that's kind of the look we got going on here. Looks like really creepy, kind of bondage looking thing, which really all the Cenobites kind of have that aesthetic going on. But this is like, you know, there's the wrapping around the mouth and the head and all over the place that just, and also with like some wiring, you know, and some spikes and stuff on there that make it a really, really creepy look, you know, for being in, and then, you know, it's, again, kind of one of those background ones in Hellseeker, but it's a cool enough design that it's like, you know, I'll go ahead and throw it up above here because I do think it's pretty cool. And we kind of get another appearance of Bound, but not exactly, and that leads right into my right number 15, Bound 2, who's in Hellworld. I guess Bound decided to skip out on Deader, but I think the Bound 2 design kind of takes the Bound design and just kind of refines it more and makes it look a little creepier, and you kind of get more of a better look at Bound with in Hellworld, which that is one thing. As much as I don't like the movie Hellworld, you do get some pretty, you know, up close shots of Pinhead and the Cenobites and like in a lighter, you know, in a more well lit room in some scenes too, so you get like a better look at them. And again, there's not a lot of differences between Bound and Bound 2, but we do get a better look at Bound 2. We get kind of a better scene or a few scenes with him in there. So we'll go ahead and throw Bound 2 at number 15. Then we go to number 14 with the Chatterer Beast from Bloodline. And this is a really cool one. These we're up in the spot where I do dig these pretty fair amount here. And, you know, Chatterer Beast, maybe some people would have a little bit higher, but again, it's like, okay, we're reusing the Chatterer thing again. So it's like, all right. But it is pretty cool how, like, you know, it doesn't have any eyes. And if I didn't say it already, I may have. Chatterer Beast is from Bloodline. There's some really, really cool scenes where Chatterer Beast is walking around and sniffing out, you know, some of the characters hiding on the ship and everything. And just, it's some really, really cool scenes, really intimidating, looking with, like, the slobber, almost looking rabid. So I think that is kind of a cooler, you know, really cool, unique way to kind of use the Chatterer aesthetic. But, I mean, overall, it is one of those things. It's like, okay, we're reusing the Chatterer yet again. But it's a pretty cool looking beast and Cenobite. So then we go on to number 13 with CD from Hell on Earth. And I know what I said about these Hell on Earth ones, you know, that I already did talk about, how they're really over the top and kind of corny or whatever. And so is CD, but something about him, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I like CDs. No, I just, to me, his design looks a little bit cooler and less, I mean, sure, the thing is over the top where he is, you know, his mouth is like a CD ejector and he's got discs sticking out of his head or whatever. But, you know, his design just looks a little bit cool, and he still does look really freaky. And it is kind of cool seeing him, like, just toss these CDs, you know, and I mean, that would hurt, you know, throwing these CDs like freaking shurikens. So, but I think one of the key things that does put him above a lot of these other ones, and like from Hell on Earth, is that he doesn't say anything, just does what he needs to do, even though he is over the top. He does look freaky in his design. And, you know, he goes out and just starts killing people instead of, you know, making one-liners and everything. Because his mouth, he can't. Because his mouth is a freaking, you know, a disc ejector. So, but I always thought his design was pretty cool. And that's one of them Hell on Earth ones I'm like, I'm fine with that. So, then we got number 12, where we go with Chatterer 3. That's right. A third Chatterer. And he's in Hellseeker, Deader, Hellworld, and Judgment. And that's kind of what gives him the spot above, you know, maybe Chatterer Beast. Is because, like, okay, he's in a good, I mean, this is the Chatterer version that's in the most films, actually. Definitely not the most iconic version because he's in some of these later films, but he does kind of, he's kind of like a mixture of the appearance of Chatterer 1 and 2, which we'll talk about mainly their kind of aesthetic differences to them. But, you know, it is one of those things, again, it's like, okay, Chatterer, should you have ever left to begin with if we're just going to keep bringing you back and reincarnating you, making other versions? Because, like I said, I'm pulling these off the Hellraiser Wiki, and this is technically a different Cenobite. Chatterer 3 is, whether it's with the same, like, kid as the origin character or not, in the human form or not, it still is calling it Chatterer 3. And, you know, that's kind of why I throw him up here, is because it is Chatterer. He does have him being in, you know, the version of Chatterer that has the most scenes, that's featured in the most films. He does have his fair share of creepy scenes going on in there throughout Hellseeker, Deader, Hellworld, and Judgment. There's plenty of freaky stuff going around and really cool scenes with Chatterer 3 in him to warrant him, kind of being up here as a Chatterer. Another representation of that kind of archetype for the Cenobites. Then we move right on to number 11 with Chatterer 2 from Hellraiser 2. And there actually is a pretty significant design difference here. Chatterer 1 died, or I don't know if you'd really call it died or what, but in part 1, after the box was opened, Kirsty opened the box and, put him back down to hell. But Chatterer 2 kind of comes back, but this one is the same person in human form as the first Chatterer. Like I said, I'm not really sure if Chatterer 3 is or not, or if that's somebody else who took on that form. But Chatterer 2 is indeed the same human as Chatterer 1. But the main kind of differences is like the eyes are more just like blacked out, and the wiring and the fish hooks that are kind of in his mouth are gone, to where it makes almost more of a clean look. But I mean, it kind of fits the thing of like, oh, Chatterer 1, died, and they kind of gave. He kind of had a rebirth, so he's more, more refined and clean and new looking in this one. And he's also, of course, got some really cool scenes. There's the creepy scene where, you figure out, this Chatterer slash Chatterer 2 the whole time has been a kid in human form, which is just kind of creepy when you see them turning into the human form, and also you're like, what the hell? That was a kid, So pretty freaky stuff. But, really cool scenes from Chatterer 2. I'm going to give me a drink here real quick before we move on to our top 10. All right. Number 10, Little Sister from Deader. And this is another one of those kind of background ones, but I'm going to throw it above the Chatterer 2, 3, and Chatterer Beast, and, some of that stuff, because just the design was really, really freaky. The few scenes that she's in, when she almost looks a lot like, she does look like almost like an evolved form of the Stitch / Stitch Twins character. Kind of looking like almost kind of doll-like. Really, it's a kind of a fusion of the Stitch character and the Wired Twins character, which we'll talk about in a bit. As far as the design goes, with like having kind of like no eyes, but then like some wiring kind of going on, and just these lines, and almost looking like really like a sad kind of look to her, and with almost like a fish kind of look. But like she her appearances in Deader, like every time she appears, it's just one of those designs. It's like really, really creepy looking. There's like a scene where she's like pretty up close, and in that main character's face, and kind of up in the mix there for a minute. So, and again, the design of that one I think is really freaky looking. So I went ahead and threw Little Sister from Deader up here in the top 10. Then number 9, we go on to our another one of our Chatterer variations here in Torso from Hellraiser Inferno, which I threw this above those other ones because, man, that scene, I'll never forget first seeing when I was watching Inferno for the first time, and also you see these hands crawling up the stairs, and it's just half the body of a Chatterer crawling up the stairs, and like that is just wicked. I mean, every time I see that scene, it's like, kind of it just looks really grotesque, and just imagining that torso just with chattering teeth just crawling after you. That's just a freaky sight. And honestly, I wish that the Chatterer after Chatterer 1 and 2 were kind of done, and they brought back this, because after Chatterer 1 and 2, Hellraiser 3 and 4 didn't have like no, I take that back, because Hellraiser 4 had the Chatterer Beast. But I think after they introduced Chatterer, the Torso in Inferno, that they kind of should have kept that Cenobite around, instead of making Chatterer 3, female Cenobite 2, which is with the Chatterer head. I think they should have kept Torso around, because that's a really freaky one. I could imagine a bunch of cool scenarios that they could have maybe put him in throughout the series that maybe would have ended up making him get a little bit higher. But the scenes he's in Inferno definitely, for me, warrant Torso being up here, number 9. Then number 8, we're going with Barbie from Hell on Earth. And this is another one kind of like CD that, It's it's one of those hell on earth Cenobites that doesn't say anything, which is to its advantage. And Barbie doesn't actually have really anything too over the top or crazy. It's kind of a chubbier looking guy with barbed wire wrapped around his face and like a blindfold. And then what's really cool is that Barbie also like spits out fire, like or uses like kind of like those fire breather like circus performers do, like have that little stick and breathe out the fire. And I just think that's pretty cool. And like he had some really crazy looking scenes in Hell on Earth. And like I said, this is one of those that's not really over the top at all. I don't maybe that's just me. I don't know. If you guys maybe find that being over the top with the barbed wire and stuff and breathing out the fire, let me know. But to me, I just thought that was a pretty freaking cool concept and really creepy looking, with just like the barbed wire just tightened around the face. And and again, Barbie is one of those two that poses a pretty big threat, breathing out freaking fire and helping burn down that club and is running through the streets lighting shit on fire. So really, really cool Cenobite. Always been one that I really liked from Hell on Earth. Then we go to number 7 with female Cenobite from Hellraiser and Hellbound. And we do get different actors for female Cenobite from Hellraiser 1 to Hellraiser 2, Hellbound. It's a different actor, but apparently it is the same Cenobite, and she's really freaky, I do prefer the first actor for female Cenobite, but the second girl who plays her does a really good job too. But she's just, the way she talks is really creepy. I mean, the dark kind of raspy voice, and her just saying really wicked stuff, and with and I remember in like Hellraiser 1 with like she's got that hook and is scratching it in the walls, and she's just really, really freaky. I even used to think it was a dude like in Hellraiser 1, like because it's almost kind of androgynous in a way, like just the way the makeup is applied on here. You're looking at a bald being here with just like little tufts of hair on top and just kind of like some wiring going through her jaws, and just the voice really threw me off to make me think it, like for the first time, whenever I first ever saw Hellraiser, I didn't know if it was a dude or a girl. But as the name suggests, it's female Cenobite, but she's got really, really cool and creepy scenes in both of those, both Hellraiser and Hellbound, and she's one of like the original Cenobites. So she's definitely earned her spot up here as number 7 for me. Then number 6, I'm going to go with the Doctor from Hellbound. And man, one of the main reasons he's up in here is because, I mean, look at the threat he, posed to everybody down there in hell. After the Doctor, he was really like obsessed with the Cenobites and the box and hell and Leviathan and all that. Well, he gets taken down to hell and meets Leviathan firsthand via Julia. So, then we get the really cool scene of him turning into this Cenobite form of him. We know with the wire being like, almost kind of looking like Pinhead, where it like kind of separates his skin, making it look like almost like cheesecloth going around his skin or something with that wire, and kind of dividing it up. Then he's got like the big beast plugged into the back of his head, and I don't know why, but the sound he makes is really creepy, where he's like, it almost sounds like he's getting shocked or something, and it's like a really echoey, weird kind of shout. That's always really creepy. And this is one of those dudes where he is kind of over the top with like his one-liners and everything, but I kind of think it's funny, and he's freaky enough, and seeing how powerful he is, to even like make Pinhead and the other Cenobites be like, oh shit, we've got something on our hands here. This dude is wreaking havoc down here. So, I just think that was kind of a really, really cool final villain of Hellbound. So the Doctor, and also the origin kind of him, and his character prior to becoming the Cenobite, being obsessed with all that was just really cool and helped bump him up here to number 6. Take another drink here real quick. We've been going at it. Almost done here at number 5 with Angelique from Bloodline. Man, oh man, what a creepy Cenobite. She appears in like the 17th or 18th century, whatever that beginning part was of Bloodline, the first kind of historical part, as a demon they summoned from hell. Her and this, old thespian, English thespian, they summoned this demon from hell, performed like a sacrifice, and which in a really, really creepy scene, and she embodies this girl they sacrificed, and is kind of, she ends up, kind of going on into like the modern era, which would be the 90s in that movie, and it's kind of under control of one of the main kind of villain guys for a little bit there. They're kind of sidekick to that English thespian guy, but then she ends up turning on him and kind of just getting unleashed, and then we get some really cool scenes when she starts kind of teaming up with Pinhead, and because she's like the ancient, like she's like apparently a really, really powerful demon, and they call her, Pinhead calls her Princess, and she's just really, really freaky. I just find the whole concept of her, being a straight up demon that was summoned at the beginning of that movie, embodying, the body of one of those sacrifices, and like whenever that happened, she had like the blackened out eyes, and I really think that she should have been in like more of these movies, because like she was such a cool character, had a really cool arc going on throughout those timelines, kind of being with Pinhead. They get in their arguments and stuff, and she's also got that really cool scene where she's like in the mirror, like screaming help, or whatever, like on the spaceship, and it's one of them guards or whatever's like, what the hell? And then like she pulls him through the mirror and kills him. I thought that was a really, really cool scene too. So Angelique is just such a cool character, really, really intimidating and powerful Cenobite that I think definitely should have been featured like more after her introduction in Bloodline. Sadly, that's the only one she's in. Then we go to number 4. This may be kind of a controversial one, but the Wire Twins from Inferno. And these kind of look like, they kind of look like female Cenobites in a way, but like with kind of the same, like they don't have any eyes, and they have, kind of like wire looking ponytails and wires kind of hanging all around them on their face and stuff. And they're just in some creepy as hell scenes. Like, whenever I saw them for the first time ever, when I watched Inferno years ago, and like, there's that scene where like you get them right up close in your face, and with that detective, and then they're like making out with him and put their hands like under his skin on his chest, and they're like rubbing around him like all seductive like. That's just really, really freaky. And they just are definitely like the embodiment of like, almost like a really corrupt and evil and sexual kind of demon. And they just, I don't know what it is about them, but they just freak me the hell out. You look at them, and just, I guess it really just is like their whole kind of seductive nature, but yet that, like, opposed to their appearance looking like just creepy as hell, and they're kind of moaning and stuff, and the way they kind of walk, and kind of are really floaty around in that movie. But just that first scene with them two in Inferno just was enough for me to throw them all the way up here at number 4. And that's, again, another set of Cenobites right there that I think they should have been featured in a lot more, because they're freaky as hell. And, I could see them even being featured in Hellseeker, considering, like the main character in that one, it was kind of like cheating on Kirsty. I think it would have been cool to maybe have the Wire Twins kind of, being all over him and everything. I think that would have been like a pretty cool scene, which they kind of did that with, who was it? Stitch. But, it didn't really have the same effect, I think, if maybe the Wire Twins would have been involved in that. But anyways, we're hopping on to the top 3 here. These are going to be kind of predictable, but, it is what it is. Number 3. Butterball from Hellraiser and Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, and man, he's a freaking icon. And there's something just wicked about him. He's kind of funny looking, he's kind of a tubby little guy, but he looks like, he kind of looks like a a really, really disfigured version of Patrick Star from SpongeBob. So when you think about it, but there's also something really, really creepy about him. Like when he's got these sunglasses, and it just looks really mysterious. Probably the most mysterious of the bunch, especially out of the original Cenobites. And he has enough freaky scenes, where he's like drooling around, and when he does take off those sunglasses, like his eyes are they're not there. You just get like little slots there, and he just kind of, he seems like he's there for business. He's kind of sitting there with his arms crossed while Pinhead and the female Cenobite are talking in these, and he's just like sitting there with the sunglasses on, looking like a badass, ready to take care of business. But he's kind of an icon for the series, When I think of Cenobites, he's one of the first one that comes to mind, and he is freaky. All jokes aside, he is really freaky looking. If you see him, in your house pop up one day, you're going to be freaked the hell out. He almost looks, he's got like a worm kind of look to him. Really slimy look, and just a freaky looking dude overall, but just one of my favorites. He's really iconic, a part of that original set of Cenobites. And it is sad we only saw him in Hellraiser 1 and 2, but, regardless of that, he's an icon for being in those original set of Cenobites. Then number 2, the original Chatterer, who only appeared in Hellraiser. Again, I've kind of covered that already with him being the same character, technically, as Chatterer 2, but this original form of him in Hellraiser is his freakiest form. He's still got the hooks in him. I'll never forget seeing Chatterer for the first time when I watched Hellraiser years ago for the first time, and you just see these creepy looking teeth just start chattering through, these attic walls or whatever, or I think it was in the hospital where they first saw him, and because, you see, even before I ever watched the Hellraiser movies, everybody knows who Pinhead is or whatever, but man, when all these creepy Cenobites started coming out, especially the Chatterer, I didn't know of them, before watching the series long ago. All I knew of was Pinhead. So whenever I see this dude coming out here just chattering his teeth all creepily, I was like, what the hell, In ways, he looks scarier than Pinhead. Not exactly all the way, but just there's certain parts about him that are kind of a little bit freakier than Pinhead even. And one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when they're in the house or whatever, and for whatever reason, he decides to just stick his fingers in Kirsty's mouth, or in fact, I don't even think that'd be in the house. That was also in that hospital where he appears and just bam, sticks his fingers in her mouth. What the hell? What was he thinking, and what was he trying to do there? But that's just creepy as hell. And he's sitting there chattering in her ear, and then of course he's got the really cool scene too in the house whenever that it's all crumbling down and everything, and you see him hiding behind a veil and pulls it off to try to scare Kirsty before she sends him back to hell. Another amazing, amazing scene, and he's just one of the best freaking Cenobites, just an icon. I really want to get a figure for him for my horror figure collection that I may end up showing off sometime or another for a video in the future, but I really want to get a figure of him. I know there's some out there, but I would love for NECA to make an ultimate figure of him in the bot with the kind of how they make them now, instead of because I think the only ones they have out are these 1990s ones that look good in their own right, but that's besides the point. I just want a figure of him. But yeah, Chatterer is just one of my favorite Cenobites, and I think he's kind of a horror icon in his own right. And number 1, we're going with Pinhead. Again, I'm not ranking the incarnations of him, but I like Pinhead best in the first one, for sure. You get the best freaking, scenes of him in that one. We're talking, we'll tear your soul apart, and just, while I did say, Chatterer does have some parts about him that are a little bit freakier than Pinhead, overall, nah, Pinhead's the freakiest. He's just got this intimidating presence to him. And, he's got freaking needles sticking all of his head. He's the horror icon for a reason, despite kind of the craziness that this franchise has kind of gone through. He still is known by people from his first, mainly from those first 2 movies, and, and sometimes for people the third one. But just so many scenes, and even in the ones later on where he's not in them as much, and or even for the ones that are bad that I don't really like. Besides Revelations, I don't like the Pinhead in that at all. But like for like Hell World and Deader, well, when Doug Bradley's on the screen as Pinhead, I mean he's freaking badass, and he does just deliver 100%. So he at least is a little bit of a redeeming quality in like the movies I don't like of Hellraiser. And then even the new guy in Judgment, I think did a really good job sitting in that throne, and had some really cool scenes with that angel at the end of that movie. But yeah, overall, Pinhead, one of my favorite horror characters of all time. He's just, he's not a slasher. He's not going around slashing people. Although he does kind of do something similar, kind of has that kind of vibe to him in Bloodline, where he's, got the kid and everything. And I think that's really cool when he's doing that, kind of running around. He's in Bloodline a lot. But, he's more of an intimidating presence that appears, and shit's getting real, and it's getting serious when he appears. And most of the time when he appears, he's pissed off, and he's wanting to take some souls, and he's just one of the most badass characters in all of horror and all of movies for me. Love, love, love Pinhead. I've been freaking in love with that character, since I first ever saw Hellraiser. In those scenes where he's just tearing into Kirsty verbally, and Frank and everybody involved, just spitting out just memorable lines and iconic lines. There's so many iconic lines with him scattered throughout all the movies he's in, especially the ones, 1 through 8 with Doug Bradley in them. You don't get anything better than Doug Bradley as Pinhead. He made that character what it is, gave it that intimidating feel, and the makeup is always on freaking top-notch stuff. It's just, it's on a whole nother level whenever it's on Doug Bradley or the Judgment guy. Again, Revelations, we're scooting that out the window, because don't like that Pinhead at all. But overall, Pinhead is the character, one of my favorite horror movie characters of all time, and obviously had to be my favorite Cenobite. So, with that being said, guys, we knocked out all these ranking the Cenobites and ranked all the Hellraiser movies. I know we're going to have one coming out maybe later this year. And I think it's going to be a remake, and have a female Pinhead. And, I'm still kind of, iffy on that. Don't know how that's going to work out. But, I'll go into it with an open mind and see how it goes. But I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on, like, some of your favorite Cenobites. I mean, if you don't want to rank all 24, whatever, you don't have to. Your call. But I'd love to hear what you guys think about them and some of your favorites. And if you want it, maybe someone's favorite out there isn't Pinhead. I'd be surprised, but you never know. I think I was reading one list on some article or something where somebody's favorite was Butterball. Don't know if they were joking or not, but I mean, I see where they're coming from. Butterball's pretty cool, pretty freaky, so I could definitely see Chatterer being some people's favorite, or, Angelique, any of these, or a lot of these. But, or even if someone's favorite is Camerahead, good for you, man. I'd love to hear about it and hear why, and hear maybe some of your favorite and most iconic lines from Pinhead, and favorite scenes from some of these other Cenobites and stuff. But with that being said, the next series, again, I don't really, I just kind of do like this horror movie stuff as, just whenever I get done rewatching them. I'm not really trying to kind of like in my album reviews, I do kind of consistently have a schedule of kind of them coming out. I don't really kind of do that with the horror movie stuff. I just kind of do it whenever. But the next time I do something horror related, it's definitely going to be ranking the Friday the 13th movies, because man, those are fun. And I got that big Blu-ray set, really awesome Blu-ray set for Christmas. So I'm going to be ranking and slash reviewing, going through all those, and then the kind of companion video with that will be ranking on the looks of Jason, which will be really fun because he's had a whole slew of different looks. So stay tuned for that. Whenever that ends up going down, it may be a little bit. We'll just kind of see how it goes. But yeah, that'll be fun doing that next time. And let me know what you guys think about the Cenobites, Pinhead, the Hellraiser franchise, all that good stuff. And like, subscribe, comment, and thanks for watching, guys.